is very humid. We had a wonderful rain this afternoon and we needed it. It is July 10th. It's at 6 o'clock in the evening and it is 75 degrees. My tomatoes are doing very well over here. I have a lot of heirloom tomatoes. I have Amish paste, Cherokee purple, and I think this one's called a lemon ox heart, and then dwarf emerald giant. This bed gets the last bit of the evening sun, and the tomato plants really like that. I've kind of decided today that my garden really never dries out. I'm right beside the pond here, and it's very wet over here, and this is clay soil, and it just never seems to dry out in the summer. So my tomato plants, I don't think are going to do very well in this garden. So I kind of decided that I'm going to start growing my tomato plants at my other garden, and I'll include a link to a tour of my other garden so you guys can see it. It's much better for tomatoes, peppers, and that kind of thing. I'll probably start limiting this garden to things like root crops such as carrots, potatoes, onions, garlic, shallots, and then my spring and my fall crops like my greens and those kind of things. So that's kind of a decision I made today. I think it'll work out fine. Oh, and everything seems to be doing real well. I'll probably continue to grow cucumbers here because they love it. I've been getting a lot of cucumbers, real happy about that. And obviously I'm not going to move this coneflower plant. Last year it did not bloom at all. I think I mentioned that in another tour. But as you can see, this year it is doing so well, and these are fragrant too, so this is the first time I've grown them. And I'm just so happy I did. They're turning out very nice. This is the Anise Hyssop. It's real pretty too here in the evenings. Attracts a lot of pollinators, as does the coneflower. And then there's the strawberry plant down there. I've been actually picking a few strawberries. I was surprised. I checked up under there the other day, and there were strawberries that were not eaten by one thing, and they were there waiting on me to pick them. So that was a very pleasant surprise. I have some spaces here where I've harvested shallots, and throughout the garden I've harvested carrots and potatoes. So I need to come back through here and get one last succession planting of beans and carrots and that kind of thing in the garden. The dill has just been beautiful, beautiful. It's going to be kind of hard for me to pick it up on camera, but when it's bright and in the sun in the morning, it just glows. It's really pretty in the morning. But there's the dill. I've been harvesting pollen, and I've mentioned that I'm going to have a video on that soon on how you can harvest pollen as well. Right now I've got the parsley caterpillar has been visiting it, and there's one right there. And that will turn into a beautiful black swallowtail butterfly. I found 3 on here so far. And I'll leave a link. Maybe if you have kids or something and you see that on your dill plant or parsley plant, you can collect that little rascal and watch him grow into a beautiful butterfly. And I'll show you how I did it in that video. Okay, and I have been basically weeding and weeding and weeding. We went out of town for I think 5 days around July 4th, and came back, and there's my probably 3rd bucket, 5-gallon bucket of weeds, and I've only done 2/3 of the garden. So one thing I like about the little raised beds is there is no weeding involved. You just plant them, let them grow, and harvest is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Over here, weeds, lots of weeds and clay soil. It's very hard to weed them. This is the carrot right here that went to seed, and it's still going to seed. One little carrot. Been harvesting some greasy green beans. They're just starting to come in, so I'm really happy about that. There's some right there. And then I side dressed the galangal, which is a Thai ginger. I side dressed that last night right before our rain, and it's doing wonderfully. Really, really happy about that. I think I'm going to have a beautiful harvest in October, and I will definitely make a video on that. Okay, here's some more carnival blend carrots, and been having a really good time with those beautiful colors. So I've been cooking those a lot. More greasy green beans. Been harvesting a lot of those. And then over here I have my tomato plants, and there's about 3 different ones. The sun gold's not doing very well here, and I just know it's this location in the garden. I've grown the sun gold before, and it was a monster, but it was in another area in the garden. And your sunlight is everything, and this is a very wet spot, very clay, very heavy clay here. And right there, it's almost like a swamp. That's just water over there, and all that is grass growing on top of the water. So that'll give you an idea just how wet it is over here. And so everything's doing pretty well. This is the cilantro. I'll be harvesting the coriander seed on here very soon. It's just starting to turn tan, and so I expect in another week it'll be brown. Of course, I probably won't be here. That's the hard thing about having a garden in the summer. My kids are home from school, and I am on the go constantly. Gardening is not on my agenda every day. Okay, this is cucumber. These are cucumbers right here. I pointed this out in a couple of videos. I always try to point out the good things with the bad. I always point out the bad things like I just did with the moisture problem and stuff like that. But this cucumber plant is a monster, and it is doing wonderfully. And I just keep picking lots of cucumbers off of it. And it's growing in 6 inches of soil, maybe less, maybe 5 inches of soil, because it's just a square-foot garden. And underneath that box is weed block, so the roots don't go down any further than that. And you know, there's some damage right there in the middle. You can see that. That's from the squash beetle. I'll include a link to that video if you're wondering what a squash beetle is. It's not the squash bug, it's a squash beetle. It looks like a ladybug. And I'll also include a link to a review I did on this seed. It's called a Chelsea Prize. It's just a little European English slicing cucumber. Love those cucumbers. They're really nice. So there's some under here already to harvest. We just harvested a few the other day. There's one down in there, and then there's some more back in there. You can probably see them. And since I'm not trellising these, I pointed that out before, they are growing kind of curly. And they're not straight, but that's okay. They're edible, and I don't mind them being curly at all. So this is my son's garden, and I will include a link to his last tour of his garden if you want to know what he's growing over there. Okay, butternut squash is doing very well. There's some underneath there, and there's a couple more down there. You might be able to see that one and that one. This is a Three Sisters garden, and the beans have grabbed onto the corn, and it's growing straight up the corn, just like it's supposed to. And then, of course, the butternut squash is growing underneath it. I chose to grow a squash instead of a melon. I don't know, just to try it out and see how it would do. And when I harvest the corn, which hopefully I will end up harvesting corn, I will do a review and do a video on the entire process of growing a Three Sisters garden from beginning to end. I do kind of like to show videos from beginning to end so that the viewer will know exactly what to expect. You know, instead of just showing you one step and you never really know if it worked or not. So I want you to know if it worked or not and how it ends up working for me. So instead of just including one step, I think it's nice to include all the steps so you can see. And down here is patty pan squash. I've been getting several of those. They are really doing well. And there's another one there. They're getting pollinated very nicely. Sometimes I'll go down here and look, and there'll just be little bees all inside the big flowers there. And got my little beans climbing right up. And then this bed is not doing, you know, too well. It's I did weed it. It was nothing but weeds about an hour ago. So that's the Uncle Mark Bagby tomato plant. But I don't know. We'll just have to see how it does. It's looking leggy, as are most of the tomato plants in this garden. We just had a hard rain, so the elephant head amaranth has fallen over on me. I have a lot of borage that has reseeded all through the garden. So last year it came up in like April, and this year it's just now coming up. So go figure. Anyway, that's the garden, and we have our little family of geese out here somewhere. There they are. And it's so funny that they have just stuck around. They haven't gone anywhere. They've been there since May. And this is kind of like their little home where they've been feeding and hanging out. And everyone's kind of been enjoying watching them grow up. So thanks so much for watching. And have a beautiful day.